Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank. Banking with greater momentum. At b1bank.com.
From Mansur's on the Boulevard, we're out to lunch with Stephanie Regal. Stephanie Regal is a broadcaster and editor of Baton Rouge Business Report. It's business Baton Rouge style.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Regal. Next time you're in a hotel room with a little coffee maker, take a look at the individual coffee pod. There's a good chance it came from right here in Baton Rouge, headquarters of PodPack International. The local company manufactures and distributes single-cup brewing solutions, not only for hotels, but for offices, restaurants, convenience stores, and even homes. Last year, the company announced plans to expand its presence here in Baton Rouge and invest more than $10 million building a new, larger manufacturing facility and hiring 19 more employees. What's fueling all the growth? Here to tell us about it is PodPack's Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Tom Martin. Tom, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Well, thank you very much.
Glad to have you here. Now, PodPack isn't the only coffee company in Baton Rouge. Also joining us today on Out to Lunch is Ian Melancon, second-generation owner of River Road Coffees, a family business that for 20 years has been roasting high-quality signature blends of coffees for the Baton Rouge market. The company has a thriving retail business, both online and in supermarkets across southeast Louisiana. And it also sells to restaurants, office clients, and convenience stores. Ian, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Having a special coffee show today on Out to Lunch. Tom, I wanted to start with you. PodPack International makes individual brewing solutions, pods with coffees and teas. Y'all have been doing this for 18 years, is that right?
Well, actually, it's been 19.
Okay, 19 years now. Where did this idea come from, and were you in on it from the beginning?
Yes, it really was. I have a partner in the business. It was actually his brainchild, and he was looking at trends in the coffee industry, and he was motivated to get back in the coffee industry because he had retired early and realized that he missed it a lot. So he found this to be his ticket back into the industry. So anyway, we started off with something called an espresso pod, and we saw that as something that was exploding over in Europe,
okay.
And we brought it here. And of course, we don't have our own brands. We're a private label brand, so we call on all the coffee roasters and we actually brand the coffee roasters on our packaging.
And then at the manufacturing facility here in Baton Rouge, that's where you actually make the little paper, the filters that comprise the pods, and where you fill them and package them and send them off. Is that right?
Exactly. Most of the time, the coffee roaster sends us roasted beans. We grind and actually pack into the pods, and now the cups. We actually do the cups now too.
So you talk about single cup brewing solutions. What's your array of products?
Well, we make, like you mentioned before, we actually have a big presence with private labeled pods in hotel rooms. We also have pods in offices that basically for single serve, variety, convenience in the office. And we broke into the quick serve restaurant business not long ago by one of our roasters has a connection with Taco Bell. And we're actually taking their coffees and made pods and put them in, and now they're serving coffee made with the pods.
So PodPack is in Taco Bell.
Correct.
That's huge.
It helped us grow a lot. That's for sure.
Did it double y'all's revenues? You think?
Well,
sales?
It didn't quite double us, but it definitely started us up to another level. And what we're finding is other quick-serve restaurant chains are seeing the advantages of this, and we're working with 2 other ones right now. So that could really make a big difference in our volume.
How did Baton Rouge beat out the rest of the United States to get PodPack's manufacturing facility here?
Well, actually because I lived here. And my partner lives in New Jersey, and we actually started in New Orleans. And thought we'd be close to where most of the coffee was imported in the country at that time. Mm-hmm. And that's changed a lot.
It has a lot.
But But anyway, and back in 2000, I decided to move it here where it'd be closer, where I could kind of keep my eye on things.
And then last year y'all made a big announcement. This was prior to the Taco Bell deal being inked, but that y'all were going to expand the manufacturing facility that was already here, and that's the $10 million investment, right?
Right, and half that investment is more equipment to be able to pack more pods and cups. The other part of it is to expand our facility. We've already expanded some. We're trying to decide whether to build a new facility from the ground up or maybe find a larger facility that we can move into.
Well, Ian, I want to bring you in on the discussion. You're sort of on the other end of the coffee business.
Yeah.
You all are a specialty roaster, a gourmet,
Right.
organic, high-end product, but a
Yes.
family-owned business.
That's
You've
right.
Been around for 22 years, is that
Well,
right?
we're 18. We're just
Okay.
a little bit right around where Tom is.
And your parents started it, your father?
My dad started the business 18 years ago. He been in the coffee business all his life, and with office coffee service is like what we specialize in. And he decided to go out on his own.
And River Road Coffee is a wonderful product, but there are a lot of well-known local coffees here, and people in South Louisiana, like I said, we're passionate about our dark roast coffee. What makes River Road different, and what makes y'all stand out?
Well, I guess it's all of we start with a really great bean. We start with the highest quality bean that we can find and source, and I guess in the industry we talk about we just don't mess it up. We roast the coffee, and all of our processing is just geared towards the quality of the coffee and not the ease of processing. So that just means that we don't, for instance, quench our coffee with water. We don't add any water back onto our coffee, which is what a lot of industrial-sized folks do because it helps them regulate the cooking of the coffee. But it also adds back in a staling agent back into the coffee, in our opinion. So we just don't do it.
What about the beans? Where do they come from? And do y'all go pick them out? And
I think this Tom said it used to be that all of our coffees came from out of New Orleans. Generally speaking, we use a lot of Central and South American coffees, but it used to all come through the port of New Orleans until Katrina, and it's now New Jersey and Houston is really where most of it's coming out of, even now, even this long after.
the raw coffee beans
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yes.
Do y'all go select them individually, or do you rely on other people to do that? What's the process?
We have brokers that are very experienced in the different countries that we order from, and they know us well from years of experience in dealing with us and know the quality that we're looking for, and so they send us a kind of a smaller selection because in each country of origin there's thousands of different choices to make.
Sure. Now, the big coffee company you hear about in Baton Rouge is Community. You started out there, Tom. I and your dad worked there.
Yeah, actually, we worked together there.
Okay.
At one point.
Yeah.
So
That's how we made
small
such
world.
That's
That's
how
great.
we made such a quick startup. When we got started, Tom helped us pack our coffee to begin with and helped us really get out there and get over some big hurdles.
And so learning from them, what lessons did you take away? And what is the competition like in this market?
I learned a lot about the coffee business. Fortunately, when I was at Community, I was able to actually work more in the manufacturing area where they roasted and packaged the coffee. Also had a chance to buy green coffee and go visit growing areas like Brazil. And then I learned a lot about the whole operation and how the business is run. Actually, the second generation family owner of Mr. Siraj, I actually learned a lot about business. He was a very business-oriented guy, and he shared a lot of his ideas with me, and it was like going to an MBA school on the job.
That's great.
So that was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. So that's where I guess I was able to go out and network in the industry by going to some conventions and things like that, and I got to know a lot of people in the business, and I touched a lot of different areas because I'd been exposed to a lot of different areas.
Do they compete against you all in the single serve market at all, or they don't touch that?
Well, they're one of the roasters we work with,
Okay.
so they're a customer.
So they're a customer. So you
They're a
get your
customer.
they're a competitor for y'all
They
at River
are.
Road.
They sure are.
And I suppose they dominate the market of the locals, or not really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They do dominate the market, of course. They've been around for a long time. They've had a long time to penetrate the market.
But you all see yourself as a niche product, or do you go up head to head with them?
We go head to head with them frequently. We do target generally the same type of customer. Sometimes we really look for those customers though that are looking for the little bit more. And they didn't have any option up until now, and we're finding more and more people want the fresher coffee, want the better service, and so that's what we're providing, and we're doing well with it.
Tell me about, in the coffee business, QC, quality control. I would imagine it's something at PodPack, it's very rigorous.
Yes.
I'm jealous of some of his equipment I've seen. He's got a neat little laser particle analyzer that I'm jealous of.
Well, if you want to be an expert in this business, and all we really change of our customer's product is grinded. So this is a laser analyzer, and it's very expensive.
Yes, so I'm intrigued. Tell me what the laser analyzer does to coffee.
You put a small sample of ground coffee in it, and it actually measures the particle size of each grind.
Oh, fantastic.
And it classifies it depending on, forms a little distribution curve depending on the size of the particle.
Wow. Now, for individual pods, do you want a very fine grind, or you want it sort of in the middle, or what?
Well, for espresso, that's the finest grind.
Sure.
Okay, but as far as like the single cup pods for regular American style coffee, that's a little bit finer than maybe your automatic drip that you do grind for your products in your
sure
bags. But it's quite a bit finer, but not as fine as espresso.
In the coffee business, how do you balance sort of the business aspect of it with the taste, the food aspect of it? Because I would imagine it's a constant, you need to make money and you need to contain costs and everything, but it's all down to the quality and the flavor. And do you all have tasters?
Yeah, well, that is largely what I do.
Oh, that's you.
That's what I do, yeah.
You're the taster.
I am the taster for the company. I have a couple guys that help me along, and it's like a discussion, like talking about tasting wines and things. It becomes a discussion about what you taste in the coffee and the nuances you're able to taste. In
the years that y'all have been in the coffee business, have you seen a change in the sophistication of the consumer? I know that people's palates are so much more, and everybody now eats artisanal bread and organic foods, and across the spectrum, I would say, huh?
Oh, very much so. It's the trend. The consumers so much better educated about coffee, and just the nature of the consumer these days. They're very curious, and they dig for information. Probably to the point where maybe they know enough to be dangerous, but
that's true.
But has that changed? I guess the quality of the product, or you have to be much more mindful of.
Absolutely. I think when you look at not so long ago, things like Folgers and that sort of thing was the norm. I mean, that's what people drank and were happy with. And now
they're not happy with that anymore.
It's not good
more
enough.
And more people, it's not good enough now. You can't even get a coffee that's considered a good coffee that it's not 100% Arabica coffee. When that used to be acceptable, to use Robusta coffees and something that would be still called a nice, good coffee. You can't even go there anymore.
So what's happened to the Folgers of the world? I mean, are they still the market leaders nationwide in supermarkets, or?
No, not anymore. I mean, there's a big level playing field. Starbucks has influenced the whole industry, and taken a lot of market share. I think Folgers and Maxwell House are probably pretty much neck and neck, but they only make up about a third of the total.
Really?
Yeah.
I really wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's crazy because that's not what when I first got into the business, that's not the way it was.
Right.
I said at the beginning of the show that South Louisianians love their coffee and that we love it dark and rich. And is that really true, though? I mean, in those in the industry, do you see regional differences in the tastes of the consumers?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Coffee is very regional. I think that's why we are so focused on Baton Rouge and our surrounding areas, because we have a taste profile here. You go to close to Texas or any direction outside 150 miles, and the profile starts to change already.
Yeah, in Texas they don't drink good coffee.
Right. Well, exactly. It becomes, they drink a lighter roasted coffee and generally speaking weaker, as well.
Then you go down to New Orleans and they like the dark coffee, but then they like a little chicory in there too.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do you all do a pod pack with chicory in it?
Well, not we're real close to doing one, and we haven't
That's gotta be difficult,
got it done yet. Yeah, it's going to be a little challenging, but we figured it out. We've got one of our new customers that's requiring a coffee and chicory item. So
Like a hotel, for instance, that wants to
it's
serve.
actually a pretty well known brand from New Orleans. So
Okay.
I really can't disclose it right now, but you'll recognize it.
I'm curious. You mentioned earlier about the 1 cup stuff in the restaurants and talked about Taco Bell, I think. What is it that they're using? Is it a pod or is it a cup or?
It's a 61 millimeter pod.
Pod.
It's the same
Okay.
diameter pod you see in the hotel rooms or in the office products. We just put as much coffee in as we possibly can.
Good.
We brew it they brew it with a Bunn pressure brewer.
Okay.
And it brews 13 and a half ounces of brewed coffee in about 1 minute. So if you go to Taco Bell, you're going to get a fresh brewed cup of coffee.
And that's the advantage over doing it the
Yeah.
old
Right.
way.
They
You
s-
wouldn't have a nasty pot sitting there
Right.
for an hour. or
Well,
two.
you never know what stage of the game that is, and they recognize a lot of waste, and
Sure.
they want to do something different,
Yeah.
and they had never served coffee before.
Okay.
True,
Fantastic.
I hadn't thought about that.
How challenging has it been to grow your companies over the years? I mean, I know growth is always such a hard thing for companies to do.
Well, I was prepared to grow for quite a while before we really started growing, and I looked at I always kidding around and said my business was a 15-year startup business. So the last 4 years, we actually averaged 35% growth a year,
very
compounded.
That's huge.
It is, and now we're not quite at that pace this year, but I mean the amount of volume we've increased it matches some of the other years, but when you go at that pace. But we had a management team in place, and we've added to it, and so we're prepared for more growth, and that's now we just got to make it happen, and you do all you can. A lot of it is timing, and of course you got to depend on your customers to follow through too.
Are you looking to be bought out? Is that in the plan? Or?
No, that's not in our plan. It's not in our plan. My partner and I are looking for a way to exit more and more out of the business, but not necessarily by selling the business.
Ian, what about you? What's your growth plan?
Yeah, we grow because we're a service business and we serve individual locations and have to maintain equipment and stock supplies and those sorts of things. We're really growing organically as far as distance is concerned. That's kind of where we limit ourselves. We're only going to grow as fast as we can serve well. We are continuing to grow in our territory in the Baton Rouge area, but we are expanding the territory slowly. It's been pretty steady for us. Tom's got some good, nice, explosive growth. That's awesome. But we're probably more between 10 and 15% a year type growth pattern.
You mentioned supplies and whatnot, and it reminds me of a story that we actually wrote about earlier this year when you were having trouble getting some of your supplies, your bags, from China because of the
Yes.
shipping strike or the longshoreman strike on the West
That's right.
Coast. What kind of challenges does that pose? Tom, I imagine you also deal with China in your supplies, or does everything come from America?
Well, so far we've purchased everything from America. We can source
kidding.
what we need here, except for our filter paper. We have to go to Europe for that.
Okay, so you don't have to deal with China at all.
No, but
Yeah, and it's funny how we deal. When we bought these, we started to source these bags, we were dealing with 2 American companies to source these things. And we found, it's interesting to find out that actually both of the companies were throughputting this to China.
Oh, no kidding. And they didn't tell you. You
No,
didn't realize
I
it.
wasn't aware of that. It was something that we thought about it as we were ordering, and it was kind of helped us make our decision, only to find out that all of them, apparently, that we have been mixing with in the United States, they all are taking my order and processing it through to another company in China.
And as the story went, it was springtime and you couldn't get your bags, so you ended up ordering just whatever bags they had in stock, and
Yeah,
they were
had
brightly
some interesting,
colored.
brightly colored stock. It just so happened coincided kind of with Easter type colors, and
I
instead
bought a
of
couple of
trying-
pink bags myself.
Oh,
I did.
Thank you. Instead of trying to kind of maybe mimic exactly what our product looked like, we decided to just go with it and have a spring-colored bag and just make lemonade instead of worry about it.
Everything's back on track, though, now.
Everything is back on track.
One more general question. What about workforce and labor? I know neither of y'all have giant workforce needs, but are you able to find locally what you need? That's a theme that I hear a lot talking to business owners.
Staffing is always difficult, but for the positions in my business, I think that we have plenty of talent here in Baton Rouge and our surrounding areas. Finding that one person, though, sometimes is a little difficult.
Right. Well, it's a challenge, but we've been trying to be as patient as we can to really find that person that matches what we want to do and what they want to do.
Right.
But it's not easy. Sometimes you get very, very lucky. The right person just walks in at the right time. Sometimes it's a long search.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you all a couple of quick questions. First one, if you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with anybody, who would it be?
Oh, boy.
Gosh, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I have to.
You can think about it for a minute.
I'll tell you who I would want to have a cup of coffee with is Dr. Ely Coffee from Italy. I mean, he's like probably the most famous coffee guy in the world.
Is he?
Yeah.
And I don't know his story.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one. What about you, Ian?
Gosh, I'm going to have to think about it. I'm not sure who I'd want to have a cup of. I don't know if it would be someone from my industry or just an interesting person.
It can be just an interesting person.
Gosh. On the spot and brain shuts down.
Maybe you need a cup of coffee.
I need a cup of
Well,
coffee.
let me ask you this. Starbucks has sort of turned coffee into almost a fashion statement. You mentioned Starbucks a few minutes ago and the dominant place they now occupy sort of on the shelves, but it's become almost a fad as well. Is there a danger, when a brand sort of takes over an industry like that and it becomes something bigger than just a beverage? Is there a danger that all of a sudden it gets overregulated or that it falls out of fashion? Does that pose a challenge for you?
Well, Stephanie, be honest with you, I would say that Starbucks probably saved the coffee industry.
Yeah.
Really?
I really do. Yeah. I can remember when I started in the business in the early 80s, and I think Starbucks came along toward the end of the 80s, and we were kind of chuckling under our breath about, oh, here's a company coming in. They're going to roast the coffee really dark. They're going to use a lot of it to brew a pot of coffee or brew your cup of coffee, and they're going to charge you $4. We thought that was
Ridiculous.
yeah, that's not going to last very long. Okay, so now you look, and what happened was they started educating people about coffee, and they raised the bar on quality. I can remember lots of companies were trying to take coffee out of the out of the little frac packs and brew less and less to save money, adding extra water because water's cheaper than coffee.
Right.
So to be honest with you, I don't think it's a fad. I believe it's not a fad. And Howard Schultz, he left the company. That's another guy I might want to have a cup of coffee with. So he left the company, and then he came back to go back and put some of their culture back into the business.
Okay.
Actually, he brought everybody that worked for Starbucks. He brought them down to New Orleans for about a week or something. Wow. And in between meetings and stuff, they actually went and built houses and all after Katrina.
No kidding.
Yeah. So so he can make a big impact, and they're here to stay, and they're growing. They're actually spreading to Europe and Asia now, and it's quite a story. And no one even comes close to having the number of stores they have.
No, they don't really.
Yeah, it's we're still not seeing the end of the quality trend and the volumes. I mean, I think we're going to have to see growth for a long time to come still.
Where do you want your company to be in 2 years?
Where would I like our company to be in 2 years? Well, in 2 years, I'll know whether we should have built that building or not. I'll know how much more equipment we got to buy, and whether or not I hit that 3-year plan I got with LED. So I expect to hit that plan. That's what we're striving for. I would say we're probably could double our business in the next 2 years.
Double your business in 2 years. That's
Right.
That's ambitious. That's great. What about River Road Coffees?
Yeah, I guess my thoughts this year going into next year, my goal is to continue to be the most respected coffee company in Baton Rouge. I think what I'm striving for is when people see our coffee service set up somewhere or see our coffee on the shelf or see one of our representatives, that they're going to immediately think that, hey, I'm either going to get a really great cup of coffee or I'm dealing with these people and they're going to tell me what I need for coffee and it's going to be the right thing and it's going to mean great taste for my customers, for my clients, for my employees, for office coffee service. And we just want to, that's who we want to be. We want to be the most respected company in the area.
Great. Well, Ian Melancon, Tom Martin, it's been great to visit with y'all today for a little coffee talk here on Out to Lunch. Podpac International and River Road Coffees are both doing great things, and we're lucky to have them in Baton Rouge. So y'all should both be proud. Good luck with your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Stephanie.
Thanks for being here. My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Tom Martin of Podpac International and Ian Melancon of River Road Coffees. You can find out more about Podpac International and River Road Coffees by following the links on our websites, wrkf.org and itsbatonrouge.la. Today's show is recorded live over lunch at Mansur's on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Mansur's is open for lunch daily from 11 to 2, for dinner nightly, and for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle. Today's show was produced by Chris Kehoe. Our associate producer is Peter Raschuti, and our Baton Rouge business consultants are Charlie D'Agostino and Ann Edelman. Mitch Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. Mitch's new album, Puzzle, is out now. You can find out more about that at mitchellforeman.com. You can get this show as a podcast, you can listen to past shows, and you can keep up with us on all kinds of social media by going to our websites, itsbatonrouge.la and wrkf.org. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsbatonrouge.la and WRKF 89.3 FM. I'm Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Mansur's for more business Baton Rouge style on Out to Lunch.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank. Banking with greater momentum. At b1bank.com.